7 years ago, I'd stepped into the spotlight and casually dropped a sentence that flipped my entire life upside down. That Elena, the country's most celebrated actress, was with me. Ever since then, one tradition never broke. Every year, without fail, I was the first to post on her birthday. Midnight on the dot. Photos, captions, memories. This year, midnight passed like any other minute, and I said nothing. The internet noticed instantly. Screens refreshed, timelines updated, and still silence. No post, no emoji, not even a like. People started spiraling. Old photos of us were suddenly flooded with comments, theories, and half-baked conclusions. Strangers were arguing like they knew our lives better than we did. Some called it elite-level drama. Others were convinced we'd finally fallen apart. They couldn't wrap their heads around it. 7 years of consistency, and then nothing. So the narrative flipped fast. I went from perfect partner to ungrateful nobody overnight. According to them, I should have been worshiping the ground she walked on. After all, she'd gone public with me at the height of her fame, when I was practically invisible. While I was being dragged online, Elena was somewhere else entirely, by Julian's side. The quiet stretched on, fueling even more speculation, until an old video resurfaced. A student studying overseas uploaded footage from years ago. The clip was shaky, grainy, clearly unplanned. A younger version of me walked down a foreign street, with a bright blue balloon trailing behind me, tied awkwardly to my shirt. Elena stood there, radiant and carefree, eyes shut tight as she made a wish. I hope Mark and I stay together forever. The caption under the video hit like a match to gasoline. 7 years later, did your wish come true? By then, her birthday was hours away. My agent, Sam, showed me the chaos on his tablet. People were literally betting on whether I'd post or stay silent. I hadn't even checked my account in days. Filming had been nonstop. Still, our names were everywhere, trending, dissected, exaggerated. Anyone looking from the outside would assume something explosive had happened. Even people we barely spoke to anymore started messaging me, pretending to check in while clearly fishing for answers. Was I devastated? Were we done? Was I throwing myself into work to avoid dealing with a breakup? Sam looked at me, concern etched across his face. Do we shut this down? I didn't even look up from the script in my hands. No, I said quietly. Let them burn themselves out. They forgot what a birthday is supposed to mean anyway. Later, alone, I opened Elena's profile. Our last conversation sat there like an unfinished sentence. 3 months old. Let's take some space. I never imagined space could stretch this far. That night, she finally posted. She was at a local water festival, laughter in her eyes, lantern light reflecting off her face as she released one into the sky. Words were written along the paper. May the days ahead be full of freedom and love. And then I heard a voice, just behind her, slightly off camera. Elena, this is incredible. Thanks for bringing me here. I didn't need to see his face. I knew that voice. Julian, the same Julian who'd hovered in the background when I first entered her world. The one who drank too much, smiled too little, and watched me like I'd stolen something that belonged to him. He'd introduce himself with a tight grin and a loaded sentence. 20 years of history packed into a single breath. Standing there now, watching him trail behind her in that video, I understood something with uncomfortable clarity. He wasn't just a friend, and he never had been. They had years of memories behind them, inside jokes I didn't understand, stories I'd never be part of. I was the late arrival. People laughed and nudged Julian, half joking that if he'd acted sooner, Elena might be standing beside him instead. I smiled stiffly, not knowing where to put my hands or my eyes. Elena sensed it and squeezed my fingers, whispering for me to relax. She brushed off the teasing, saying everyone should stop imagining things because winning me over hadn't been easy at all. Later that night, when no one was paying attention, Julian leaned in just enough for only me to hear him. He told me I was temporary, a placeholder, that whatever Elena felt for me wasn't real. My jaw tightened before I even realized my hands were clenched. Before I could respond, Elena looped her arm through mine and introduced me to another group with a bright smile, joking that I'd better get used to them because I was family now. 3 months ago, everything finally cracked. And just like so many other moments, it started with Julian. He'd returned from overseas and threw a welcome back party. The moment Elena heard he was back in town, something in her shifted. She was distracted, restless, checking her phone more than usual. In a private room, someone casually asked Julian whether he was staying this time or disappearing again. He laughed it off, but his gaze never left Elena when he said he wasn't going anywhere. I caught the smallest hesitation in her hand as she lifted her glass. A blink and you miss it pause that still landed heavy in my chest. People started cheering, feeding off the tension. With Julian back and us together for 7 years, the question came naturally. So when was the wedding? Elena didn't answer. She just kept drinking, eyes lowered, as if the table suddenly required her full attention. The truth was, her career wasn't what it used to be. Offers had slowed. Projects dried up. The spotlight that once followed her everywhere had dimmed. Online, some of her fans had decided I was to blame, that loving me had somehow cursed her trajectory. Reading it hurt, but watching her quietly absorb it hurt more. When she finally spoke, it was barely audible. We'll see. That's when Julian redirected the spotlight toward me. He joked that maybe I was the one dragging my feet, too focused on my rising career to commit. He repeated rumors he clearly read online, that I'd changed, that I'd distanced myself now that Elena wasn't untouchable anymore. He even mentioned how rarely photographers caught us together. I defended us instinctively, saying we value privacy, that not every relationship needed constant proof. But even as I spoke, I felt the weight of the unspoken truth pressing in. 7 years isn't just time. It's a deadline people love to talk about. Either you move forward or you walk away. That night, when we returned home, the city quiet around us, I stopped her in the hallway and took her hand. I told her I want to make things real, permanent, that maybe an engagement would calm the noise, give us both something solid to stand on. She pulled away as if I'd startled her. Without a word, she stepped onto the balcony, lit a cigarette, and stared out at the lights. When she spoke, her voice was distant. She said marriage now would box her in, limit her, that she couldn't afford to close doors when so many were already shutting. I didn't recognize the logic. Years ago, she defied her agency, ignored the risks, chosen us anyway. My throat tightened as I asked her how long we were supposed to live in limbo. I told her I was 30. That time doesn't reset just because you're afraid, that you don't get endless chances at the same 7 years. She rubbed her temples, exhaustion, overtaking patience. She said the pressure was already everywhere, friends, strangers, headlines, and now it followed her home. She accused me of becoming just another voice demanding something from her. She said she felt trapped, suffocated. Then she said the sentence that still echoes when the room goes quiet, that maybe I wasn't the person she'd fallen for anymore, and maybe we shouldn't keep doing this at all. Was I really the one forcing things? That thought kept circling my head, even though it was Elena who used to talk about marriage first. She'd say once she crossed 30, she wanted stability, a place that felt like home. Remembering that, I actually laughed under my breath. It's not me who changed, I told her quietly. It's you. Out of the corner of my eye, through the window, I spotted Julian downstairs, leaning against a car like he'd been waiting. That hesitation in her face finally made sense. Is this about him? I asked. She didn't answer. She just zipped up her suitcase. The last thing she said before walking out was that we should both calm down and take a break. While she was gone, I buried myself in work. Scripts piled up. Shoots overlapped. My schedule became airtight. No gaps, no breathing room. People online noticed immediately. Those who followed our relationship like a drama series started drawing conclusions. They said when a guy throws himself into work like that, something's clearly wrong at home. The comment sections turned vicious. Some accused me of taking advantage of Elena's devotion. Others claimed I'd outgrown her now that my career was finally moving. A few pretended to be gracious, saying they'd just wish her a happy birthday and hoped next year would be quieter for her. Plenty of them didn't bother hiding their verdict at all, calling the breakup early and telling me to let her go. I tried not to look, but it was everywhere. Then her interview aired. The kind that's framed as honest and reflective. The kind that cuts deeper than gossip ever could. The host asked if she regretted anything now that her time in the spotlight wasn't what it used to be. Elena paused for a long time before answering. She said maybe she shouldn't have gone public back then, that staying stuck, not moving forward or backward, felt meaningless. She talked about missing the fire she once had, the roar of the crowd, the confidence of her younger self. And she admitted you can't rewind life, no matter how badly you want to. Her fans loved it. They heard what they wanted to hear. When asked if she'd make the same choice again if she could go back 7 years, she didn't hesitate. She said there was no point in imagining alternate paths. Then came the question everyone had been waiting for. The host brought up photos of her dining with another man, someone who, according to the internet, vaguely resembled me. My chest tightened, and I paused the video for a second, bracing myself. She answered calmly, said he was a childhood friend, not part of the industry. Then she asked, no, pleaded with the media to leave him alone and respect his privacy. That was what broke me. Elena never begged. She confronted cameras head-on, never flinching. But for him, she lowered her head and asked for mercy. After that interview, the conclusion online was unanimous. Whatever we were, it was over. Her birthday arrived in a storm of noise. Feeds refreshed nonstop. Headlines speculated wildly. Some joked that the only way to end the debate was for us to post a marriage certificate. Others waited just to see if I'd acknowledge the day at all. Midnight came and went. I stayed silent. Traffic to my profile exploded so fast the page barely loaded. And when I saw Elena's post appear, I knew there would be no message from me this year. Paparazzi jumped at the chance, digging up old footage of her drunk, spinning it into a cruel narrative about decline and heartbreak. Meanwhile, images from my set circulated, me focused, composed, working as if my life hadn't cracked open. To the world, it looked like I'd already moved on. Only I knew how much it still hurt. It felt like we were living in parallel realities. On one side, Elena's supporters came roaring back, furious on her behalf. They said she'd risked everything when she was untouchable, that she'd handed over 7 irreplaceable years to someone who didn't deserve them. They kept repeating the same question like a chant. How many 7-year chapters does one person even get in a lifetime? To them, she'd lost something precious, and I was the thief. The backlash was overwhelming. My accounts were flooded again, just like they'd been when we first went public. At the same time, my own fan base wasn't exactly on her side either. They wanted me free. They believed the relationship had held me back, that my standing among new leading men had slipped because of it. In their eyes, I had talent, looks, potential, and a relationship that only complicated things. From day one, we'd been told we didn't belong together. Strangers judged us. Industry insiders whispered. Even people we knew doubted us. Somehow, we lasted 7 years under that constant pressure. Ironically, it was only recently that things had softened. People had started wishing us well. Fans congratulated us at events, joking about weddings and forever. And that was the cruel part. Just when acceptance finally arrived, we were already falling apart. Throughout those years, I'd pushed myself hard, trying to prove that love and ambition didn't cancel each other out. Then the new drama aired, and everything shifted again. The audience latched onto my on-screen partner, Sarah, with an intensity I'd never seen before. Clips spread everywhere. Fans coined a couple names for us, flooded comment sections with fantasies, jokes, demands. Under every viral scene, the message was the same. Elena was fine, but Sarah was dazzling. The chemistry was undeniable. Some even joked that Elena should step aside temporarily just to see what could happen. The algorithm made it worse. Every time I opened an app, there we were, me and Sarah, cut into romantic edits, replayed over and over. Elena couldn't avoid it. She stopped scrolling and started going out instead, drinking more than usual. That was when the cameras caught her looking completely defeated. One night, Julian brought her home. When he saw me, he didn't bother hiding his hostility. He said she'd never been like this before, that she'd started drinking only after being with me. Then he left her there like a problem he decided was mine. Inside, Elena finally snapped. She asked if I had any idea what people were saying about her. that she'd lost value, that she wasn't good enough for me anymore. Just before this, she'd been passed over for a role she desperately wanted, and the disappointment was still raw. Her voice shook, tears gathered in her eyes. She asked if I'd started seeing her the same way the internet did, if that was why she felt so small lately, why she couldn't feel my love anymore. I showed her my schedule, tried to explain how consumed I was by work, how every spare minute went into preparation, into becoming better. I told her I reached out whenever I could. It wasn't enough. She couldn't stop thinking about what people were saying. She asked directly if I had feeling for Sarah. She'd seen the comments, the edits, the speculation. She mentioned how, even during interviews, people dissected our glances, convinced they meant something more. Then she laughed quietly, almost bitterly. She said the strangest part was that even she could see why people liked us together. The room went silent after that. Finally, she said the words I'd been dreading. She said we should end it. My vision blurred immediately. I didn't understand how we'd arrived there. I asked her why, but she didn't move closer like she used to when I was hurting. She just looked at me and said it felt like we were no longer tuned to the same frequency, like we'd been talking past each other for a long time. And in that moment, I realized how far apart we'd already drifted. I don't feel in love anymore, she said quietly, and living like this is tearing me apart. I wake up every day feeling stuck. I'm exhausted, Mark. Let's stop pretending this can be fixed. With that, she turned and went to the bedroom to pack. While she was in the bathroom, her phone lit up on the table. I wasn't trying to look, but the screen was right there. One message. Sharp. Urgent. Elena, have you decided? If you don't choose now, I'm leaving the country tomorrow. I won't come back. Julian. At the same time, my own phone buzzed. My agent, the travel dating documentary you and Elena filmed in Tokyo 7 years ago, just went viral again. It felt unreal. Our past climbing back to the surface, while our present was collapsing. When Elena walked out with her suitcase, I ran after her. Downstairs, Julian was already there, leaning against his car. His eyes were red, like he'd been crying. The moment he saw her, his voice softened. I knew you wouldn't be able to let me go. Elena froze. Then she realized she'd forgotten her keys and rushed back inside. That was when everything I'd been holding in finally snapped. I stepped toward Julian, my voice flat and cold. I stayed quiet out of respect for your history with her. But what kind of person are you? Do you enjoy trying to take what doesn't belong to you? The mask fell instantly. No more wounded eyes. No more hesitation. He smiled. Take, he repeated. I told you a long time ago. You just resemble me a bit. Did you honestly believe you were her one and only? Then he kept going, each word calculated. He said before me, he used to stay over at her place, that they drank together, crossed boundaries, lived like a couple without the label, that when he left to study abroad, I just happened to be there, similar enough to fill the empty space. He laughed when he mentioned the career risk, said I didn't understand how powerful her family was, that money had never been an issue, that even if she walked away from fame, she'd be untouchable. He said our families had known each other for generations. And 7 years, he added softly. No proposal. Doesn't that tell you something? My head was spinning. I shouted at him to shut up, said I didn't believe a word. For a split second, he looked startled. Then he smirked. Fine, he said. Just watch how she reacts. Elena came back down with her keys and saw us facing off. Mark, what are you doing? She yelled. Before I could speak, she rushed forward and shoved me aside, placing herself in front of Julian, hard enough that I lost my balance and hit the ground. Julian immediately retreated behind her, putting on a fragile act. I didn't say anything, he murmured. He just started yelling at me. Elena turned to him instantly, worry flooding her face. She asked if he was hurt, told him not to be scared, stood between us like a shield. And in that moment, something shattered completely. She didn't see me on the ground, didn't ask if I was okay. She'd forgotten something else too. Next week, we were supposed to finalize the adoption. 6 months of evaluations, interviews, home visits, endless paperwork. We'd passed everything. The social worker had told me it was done. I hadn't even had the chance to tell her yet. My phone rang. I answered without thinking. On the other end, the social worker's voice was gentle and full of apology. The agency said the footage of us arguing in public, combined with a wave of bad press, raised serious concerns. They didn't believe we could offer a calm, secure home for a child. The board had voted. Our approval was withdrawn. That was it. The last fragile thread tying me to Elena snapped clean in half. I felt something dark settle in my chest as I looked at her. "You'll regret this," I said, my voice hollow. Later, almost mechanically, I tapped on the trending topic everyone was sharing. The screen filled with an old video. So old it felt like it belonged to another lifetime. I was 21. Elena was 26. My face still had that soft, unguarded look, the kind you only have before the world teaches you caution. In the clip, I noticed myself shrinking shyly behind her the moment I realized we were being filmed. A bright blue balloon bob behind me, tied to my back. Elena had joked that I was terrible with directions, and this way, if we got separated while wandering around, she could always find me. That little detail must have been what caught the vlogger's eye. Back then, recording strangers wasn't common. A young woman had approached us out of nowhere, camera in hand, brimming with excitement. She introduced herself as Mia, a student studying abroad who liked documenting everyday moments. She said the balloon made her curious and asked if there was a story behind it, if we'd be open to a quick street interview. When Elena turned around, Mia froze. Her excitement short-circuited into shock. She glanced at a billboard nearby, then back at Elena, clapping a hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. It didn't take her long to connect the dots. Standing there with Elena, I suddenly made sense. She stumbled over her words, nearly saying Elena's name out loud, but Elena gently pressed a finger to her lips and nodded. Mia's shoulders slumped, assuming that was a cue to back off. Still, she asked politely, lowering her camera and requesting permission. Elena surprised her with a smile. She said it was fine, that maybe it was fate they'd met, but asked one favor. We weren't public yet. Could Mia keep the video private for now? Mia nodded so fast it was almost comical, swearing she wouldn't post anything. The moment passed, and she snapped back into interviewer mode, pointing the camera at Elena and asking if this was her first time traveling overseas. Elena answered easily. Not her first trip, but her first one with her boyfriend. Then she turned to me, eyes sparkling, and made an exaggerated presentation. "This," she said brightly, "is my boyfriend, Mark." I waved awkwardly at the camera, mumbling a greeting while Mia congratulated us. Then she asked a question that felt lighthearted at the time, almost playful. If we had anything we wanted to say to our future selves 7 years down the line. Elena squeezed my hand like she was afraid I'd disappear. Her face was glowing, full of certainty. She said she hoped we'd be married by then, that we'd have a big wedding, a cozy home, maybe 2 kids, that we'd face the world together, growing stronger side by side. When the camera turned to me, I was halfway through an ice cream. I laughed, said I hoped Elena would love me more and more. Then, trying to sound serious but failing, I added that if she ever betrayed me, I'd never speak to her again. She laughed from off camera, promising dramatically that she never would, that she wouldn't even be able to forgive herself. Our hands were still tightly linked, and Mia zoomed in, capturing every detail. Mia asked if we were each other's first love. Elena hesitated just a beat, then looked at me. We nodded together. She said it was her first time being someone's girlfriend, that I completely swept her away. I nudged her playfully, calling her out for rewriting history. She laughed, accusing me of forgetting who chased whom first. Watching it now, I couldn't tell which part hurt more, the innocence or how absolutely sure we both had been. Realizing the camera was still on us, I cleared my throat and tried to sound composed. I admitted it was my first relationship, too. Mia smiled instinctively, calling it adorable, then pointed at the balloon bobbing behind me and asked what the story was. Elena laughed before I could answer. She said my calm, intelligent look was misleading, that I had the worst sense of direction she'd ever seen. Once, I'd wandered off and disappeared long enough to scare her half to death. After that, she decided a bright blue balloon was the safest solution, so she could always spot me in a crowd. I protested weakly, saying I wasn't hopeless, just directionally challenged. She waved it off, joking that it was entirely her fault anyway. Back then, she was endlessly affectionate, teasing me one second and pulling me close the next. Mia even followed us around later that day, capturing our theme park day from start to finish, laughing on rides, sharing snacks, bumping into each other like clumsy teenagers in love. As we were about to leave, Mia asked eagerly when she could upload the video. Elena paused, then slipped an arm around my shoulders and smiled. She suggested 7 years later. By then, we could look back and see whether our wishes had come true. And now, 7 years had passed. Our breakup dominated headlines. Every few days, our names trended again, people analyzing timelines, predicting outcomes, choosing sides. Right on schedule, the 7-year mark arrived, and that old promise resurfaced. Seeing the rumors spiral, Mia finally decided to release the footage. She wrote that she'd been a student abroad when she randomly met us on a Tokyo street, that we hadn't gone public yet, that we were gentle, shy, unmistakably in love. She explained Balloon, how Elena worried I'd get lost, how careful and protective she'd been. Mia said she kept the video private out of respect, but watching the cruelty online made her speak up. She wrote that I cared deeply for Elena, that even small moments, like wiping sweat from her face in summer heat, showed it. She told viewers to judge for themselves. She tagged Elena, asking whether her wish had come true. Then she tagged me separately, wishing me happiness as well. I stared at the screen for a long time, feeling like I'd been thrown back into another life. That trip had been the beginning of everything. Tokyo was our escape, a place where we could hold hands without fear. We'd been so careful, so hopeful. In 7 years together, we'd shared very little publicly. Aside from the official announcement, most people only knew us through stolen photos and rumors. That video, raw and unfiltered, felt like opening a time capsule. Within an hour, it passed 1 million likes. Comments flooded in, calling it heartbreakingly sweet, saying it was the first real glimpse of us as a couple. People joked that the vlogger had dropped an emotional bomb. Others said if they'd seen this earlier, they would have supported us from the start. I watched it again and again until my chest hurt. When Sam found me, I was sitting alone on a bench, staring at my phone like it might give me a different ending if I looked long enough. He took one glance at my face and asked what happened. I handed him the screen. It was the official notice from the adoption agency. He read it silently, then let out a helpless sigh. Eligibility revoked. After all the interviews, inspections, and waiting, we'd been so close. As he handed the phone back, one thought echoed louder than anything else. Elena used to say she wanted 2 kids. She used to joke that if we ever had children, traveling wouldn't feel lonely anymore. Wherever we went, there would be 4 of us, noise, laughter, chaos. A real family. But we were public figures, always watched, always judged, and somehow that dream never found the right moment to exist. I slid down onto the cold bench outside the agency, clutching that lifeless email, like it weighed 1,000 pounds. My chest caved and as tears spilled freely. I whispered an apology to a child I'd never met, telling them their father failed them before they even had a chance. Old happiness is the cruelest poison. Once it expires, it doesn't fade. It burns. I said goodbye to Elena in my heart right there. Not long after, a photo of me surfaced online. I looked hollow, unshaven, worn down. The headline exploded across entertainment feeds. Instantly, the narrative twisted. People convinced themselves we'd secretly married, that the adoption was proof of how deeply in love we still were. Fueled by that old Tokyo video, fans doubled down, romanticizing everything. I didn't respond. I went back to work and shut everything else out. After filming Rap one night, I spotted her car outside the hotel. Elena stepped out, eyes swollen, emotions barely held together. She accused me of plotting all of this, of creating a scene to ruin the adoption, of trying to leave her, of betraying her with my co-star. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I pulled my arm away and looked at her with a coldness I didn't recognize in myself. I asked her what right she had to question me, when she knew exactly who had crossed the line first. I didn't soften my words. I told her the truth she'd been avoiding, that while she was all pretending everything was fine somewhere far away, I was the one begging for approvals, sitting through evaluations, doing everything possible to give a child a home. One reckless moment had erased all of that. I stepped back, disappointment weighing heavier than anger. I told her plainly, she was the reason we lost our chance to be a family. She went still. Her hands trembled as the realization hit. She said she hadn't meant to hurt anyone, that she'd only been afraid I'd lash out at Julian again. She reached for me, shaking, begging forgiveness, promising we could start over. She even said we could get married immediately, like a switch could be flipped and everything undone. I pushed her away, gently but firmly. I told her she no longer had the right to offer me that. For the first time, she cried openly. She showed me the video again, the one everyone loved. She replayed the part where I looked at her like she was my entire world. She reminded me of the promises, the plans, the future we'd imagined. Then she pulled out a ring. She begged. She confessed. She said she'd made mistakes, that boundaries had blurred, that alcohol had clouded her judgment, but that after being with me, her world had narrowed to just us. She asked for one last chance. Above us, the sky filled with light as drones formed a question I'd waited 7 years to hear. My parents were there. My closest friends, too. Everything was perfectly staged, perfectly timed, and completely meaningless. I stopped the fireworks before they ignited. In front of everyone, I spoke calmly, even as my voice cracked. I said we began loudly, and we should end with dignity. I reminded her the nights I was attacked online while she stayed silent, of the moment she chose someone else and shoved me aside, of the child we lost forever because of that chaos. And finally, I reminded her of my promise from 7 years ago, that betrayal would be the end. Shock rippled through the crowd when they learned about the adoption. No one spoke. No one pleaded. The truth had stunned them into silence. It was over. Before I walked out, I checked an account I'd never once looked at before, one that tracked our relationship like a countdown clock. The latest post read, Day 2812. Not yet. This time, I knew the answer had finally changed. When we first went public, Elena and I talk about accounts like that. I remember feeling uneasy back then. Elena, I said once, half joking, half afraid, no one thinks our relationship will last. I'm scared we won't make it to the end. She held me and smiled. It's okay. Time will prove everything. But hearts can't withstand endless tests, and time can't withstand waiting. Using my official account, I went straight to the comment section of the Breakup Watch blog and personally replied with just 2 words. We did. That was my announcement to the world. In an instant, both my and Elena's social media platforms imploded. After the breakup went public, Sam had our publicist strategically release the security footage, Julian provoking me, Elena pushing me, and the chain of events that led to our adoption being revoked. Alongside it came additional evidence. Public opinion flipped overnight. People were stunned. They couldn't believe this A-lister had 2 faces. Wasn't she the one always talking about deep love? She crossed a line. People like her don't belong in entertainment. The sheer scale of the drama was unreal. The breakup shot straight to the top of trending lists. Just like 7 years ago, the internet lagged and crashed. Media outlets called non-stop for confirmation. My agent's phone rang without pause. Industry friends flooded my messages, all asking the same question, what happened? For 7 years, the world only saw Elena's sacrifices. What they didn't know was that I had taken a massive risk too. Elena's youth was precious, but my 7 years were just as valuable. For a rising young actor, going public with a relationship is a career killer. You lose CP pairing, fan fantasies, and opportunities. I spent those years working relentlessly to prove one thing, that real talent could outweigh public perception. That love didn't have to ruin a career. But eventually my luck ran out. Good scripts stopped coming. My career stalled. It wasn't until my show with Sarah aired, and fans started shipping us, that I re-entered the spotlight. Slowly, opportunities returned. Then an anonymous post from someone in the industry went viral. You probably don't know this, but Mark was actually the first one to announce a relationship on his private social feed. He was just as brave as Elena. Attached was a screenshot from years ago. I have good news to share. I'm in a relationship. My girlfriend Elena is now online. Please be kind to us. The photo showed us together on a snowy mountain overseas. Young, smiling, unaware of the ending waiting for us. The contrast between those sweet memories and the current explosion was brutal. Elena couldn't accept it. She messaged me, "Mark, I'm so sorry. Is there really no chance for us?" Fans, drowning in nostalgia, kept digging. Then someone mentioned Julian. She talked about him before. Said he was just a friend. Can someone look into him? The internet did what it does best. Anyone from the study abroad circle knows Julian. He sleeps with both men and women. His private life is a mess. That comment detonated everything. What kind of taste does Elena have? Birds of feather. Her reputation, already fragile, went into free fall. I later heard that when Elena learned how chaotic Julian's life overseas really was, and that he even had a child, she had a massive fallout with him. Their families cut ties completely. I'd always been a lightning rod for hate, but after the breakup, public opinion flipped in my favor. 7 years is 7 years. Mark was brave. He doesn't owe her anything. Then came news from mutual friends. Elena had started frequenting temples, praying and repenting for the child we never had. People saw her there often. Plain clothes, no makeup, nothing like the confident star she once was. She'd lost weight, looked exhausted, hollow. 3 months later, she announced her indefinite retirement and deleted all her social media accounts. The internet was stunned. Even washed-up fame was better than disappearing entirely. Her fans caused chaos until major fan accounts were suspended and her official forum shut down. Soon, it was hard to find any trace of her online. The last time I saw Elena, I went to find her myself. While packing to move, I found the expensive watch her mother had given me when we first met. I handed it back. I forgot to return this. She held it tightly. Her eyes were red. We're not on the same path anymore. Then she asked, voice breaking, "If time went back 7 years, would you still choose me?" I thought for a long time. Then I shook my head. No. If I knew this was how we'd end, I would rather we never started. From the moment I chose to love you, the countdown to our separation had already begun. After the breakup, my career flourished. Award nominations followed one after another. One day, Sam picked me up holding a stack of papers. "Mark, people online are betting you'll win Best Actor at the Emmys this year. What do you think our chances are?" I smiled, watching the sun break through clouds. A quiet peace settled in my chest. The road ahead is long and bright, and the past is just water under bridge.